In today's video, we're reviewing, as you can see by the title, maybe my favorite board game of all time. Now this one has been an instant hit for us. As soon as it was ready, I got it all painted up. I will do some close-ups of these miniatures because they are absolutely gorgeous. I think if you've got the standee version, still an incredible game. Like, these aren't the big selling point for me, but they are a selling point for sure. The way the game works is basically you're going to play through a story mode. You can do it via app, you can do it via storybook. We did it via the app. The voiceover is absolutely incredible, very immersive. The sounds and the music really added to the experience. You're basically going to choose your own adventure. So you're going to have options, you're going to have checks and tests to do, very similar to something like you would do in an RPG. You slowly unveil your path as you make decisions. Some of them may be the wrong ones. We made a pretty dire one in the first run. I won't spoil what it was, but yeah, he haunts our dreams. Just be careful out there. As you make those choices and move around the map, slowly your time ticks up. The quicker you can do it, the more good stuff is gonna happen. So you get extra items, you get extra tokens and other things for the battle. We did pretty well. We went to the right places, asked the right questions, and quite quickly, honestly, got into the boss fight. Now, I am only going to talk about the first one, the first chapter in this, because I don't want to spoil at least the first chapter. You know what it is. Obviously, it's on the box, it's on the cover art, it's just everywhere. You have no idea what chapter 2 is, so I don't really want to spoil that. So I am very much going to focus on the first chapter. But we can talk about mechanics, we can talk about the components, how it plays. I've got maybe one negative. If it's really a negative, it's probably just me being unorganized, but we'll get into that. So let's touch on some of my favorite parts. We've touched on the miniatures and how beautiful they are. Just having the chance to paint some of these up has been a pleasure. The amount of miniatures you get is absolutely insane. I'm sat near the boxes here, so you get the characters, which is on this sheet here, and then you get your companions and stuff you can summon on this one. And if you've got the standee version, you're just going to have mystery envelopes to open as you go. You will get these miniatures in the standee version, so don't worry if that's the one you've got, you still get some cool miniatures. You won't get this big fella and all of his minions, but it really does depend what you prefer. I'm not a massive fan of standees, so I would recommend 100% going for miniatures. Obviously you can see behind me I'm a massive miniature nut anyway, so yeah, it was a selling point for me. And then I've got two massive boxes of them down here as well. The boxes are insane. The amount of stuff that is in this game is crazy. Like, just over here, I've got the components. So we've got some of the tokens and cards. I want to say this is some of the best organization I've seen in a board game. Like, this sits on the table to hold all your tokens, but it also is part of the storage. You just throw the lid on and put it away. Same with these cards, stored like this, put a lid on, put them away. It really is perfect. You take it out of the box, put it on the table, and it's ready to go. You don't need tubs, you don't need bags, anything like that. It is the best organized board game I've ever played. That's not a massive selling point for me. I know some people are very much, that's gonna be huge for you. It's very nice. It's a nice bonus. It's just increases the experience. This feels very much like a premium game for that very reason. They've obviously taken a lot of care in every decision made for this game. So let's go through this review as you would a game. So the first thing is the story mode. So like I mentioned, you're going to go to different areas. So you're going to have a map. Different areas are going to be revealed to you. If you're playing via the app, which I really would suggest, it will be read out. There'll be some information, how the story's going. You'll turn up at the gates and then you'll go here and there. Again, try not to spoil too much, but you'll choose your locations. You'll ask questions to people. You can either try and intimidate them or maybe loosen their tongue with some coin. You'll go to certain areas and maybe you'll have a fight and slowly your health gets ticked down and maybe you fail this and you have to go somewhere else and your time's ticking up and up. And it adds a layer of tension, it adds a layer of urgency to everything you do, which I think is very important. Like I said, it feels very much like an RPG in that you make these decisions and it's going to affect your outcome. The other thing I like is the events. It adds a level of randomness, very similar to something like RuneScape Kingdoms, which we've played recently. Having those random event cards adds to the replayability of the games. Very much important in this if you're going to come back and play it a few times. So having those replay options is nice. I know I've already mentioned it, but the voiceover itself is unbelievable. Like, voices for the characters, rain falling, doors creaking open, all of these very small touches like I say, really add to that premium experience and make it feel like a lived-in world. The story, the theme, the immersion is something very important to me. I am a D&D player. It's one of my favorite games. So this, for me, hits on a lot of those notes I love about that, but in a more compact and quick and at times more enjoyable experience. Let's move on to the combat then. So after you're done with the story, you're gonna move into a boss fight. Now you're either gonna get the drop on them or they're gonna ambush you, depending how your story went. And immediately it's quite scary. So we dropped into our boss fight. Obviously it had the massive rat sat in the middle. The story had slowly built to it. I do think you're gonna enjoy chapter 2 more because obviously you know what the boss is in chapter 1. There's not really that mystery in the unraveling, the reveal and slowly unraveling the story, picking up clues and working at the mystery. Yeah, not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing what the boss was, a little more mystery around it. The boss fight itself, like I say, you're going to see the boss slapped in the middle or one end of the thing and you're the other. It's going to have some minions around it, or the rat does at least anyway. And it just seems like an insurmountable task. So if you look at his board, it's got 5 hit dice. So that is a lot of damage to deal. Obviously in this, the way damage works is, let's say I rolled 8 damage. His defense is 2. Instead of it reducing and me dealing 6, it's actually divided. So it'd be 8 divided by 2. So I'd only deal him 4 damage. It makes dealing damage very difficult. Obviously you need to hit those high numbers. The way you deal damage is you're going to choose a selection of dice. So if I chose 5 dice, for example, and I rolled 4 2s and a blank, that would deal the 8. If I rolled 3 2s and 2 blanks, anytime there are 2 blanks in an attack roll, the attack roll or check or anything is failed. Now it's sort of push your luck. So do you want to take just 2 dice and have a very low chance of just rolling blanks? Do you want to take 6 and really push your luck and just try and get a big swing into this creature? If you do miss, there is a determination rule, which means you get a token, you get any back that you spent. So it does mean if you miss a turn, you're more likely to hit the second turn. So you can use dice, which are a little more luck based, or you can just draw from the cards themselves. The decks are built so you know what's in there. You know how many of each number in there. So if you see all of the 3s are down for the white dice already been used, maybe you don't want to use the deck at this point. Maybe you want to try and refresh it at some point, so you go to the dice. It can be a very tactical choice. The game does suggest using the deck for the boss's attacks to make it more consistent. Obviously dice, if the boss takes a turn and rolls like 20 damage, you're going to feel pretty hard done by. It could still happen with a deck, but if you see a few cards have been taken out, you can kind of work out what it's going to do, how much damage it could potentially do, and you can work around that. The characters themselves all feel very unique. I was a little worried when I saw the player boards and they had their special ability that they would just feel the same with a slightly different special. However, they've got their own special decks, so everything you do is unique. As you level up, you unlock more cards. So at the start of an encounter, you get to choose 7. As you level up, you get more options. The characters feel entirely different because of that. You have your own deck. Like I say, you unlock stuff, you get new items. You have your special as well on top of that. Honestly, they couldn't feel any more unique if they tried. It just makes me want to try more characters, which so far I've only painted up the ones we're using. So obviously the big warbear is a favorite for everyone. Yeah, I will try and paint the other ones up. I did want to try the witch, but they all have slightly different difficulties. The witch was quite high, so for the first one I didn't want to. And yeah, this is it's going to be a rabbit hole for me. I am curious how many times I'm actually going to play this year. I'm just excited to play it again, get it to the table, try it again, which is always a good sign for a game. The way your deck works is if you play a card, it's going to have an anima cost. So you're going to spend these little fellas as you move them. So let's say one costs 3, you move them to the side. You can't use them again this turn. You could potentially spend 2 more or 2 more doing this. It's 1 for each square you move or hex you move. So it adds up and you have to sort of combo your turn correctly. The other massively important and maybe my favorite part of the game is how the cards themselves work. So they all have, as well as a anima cost, they also have a cooldown cost. So if you play a cooldown card 1, it's going to go to the left of your character. You can see the 1 on the board here. So the card's going to be played here. If I played a 2 for turn, it would go here. If I then played another 1, so if there's already a 1 here, I would put the 1 down, and anything here is going to shuffle around to 0. Now at the start of your turn when you refresh, you regen 6 anima, you refresh any at 0, so you're going to pick them back up. So you want to try and loop your cards so they end up here, and you can keep reusing the good ones. And I think that's some of the beauty of the game. Being able to link those combos together, not just slapping down a card because you want to do it. You really need to think about when you're going to get the card back, what you're going to do the following turn. Some cards have reactions, and you want to hold on to those. I just think the cooldown mechanic in this makes the game, and it is one of the most fascinating combat systems I've ever played in. There's just so much expression for tactics and the clever thinking, whilst also being, I think, fairly simple. Like, you pay a cost, do the effect. But there's just so many hidden intricacies of this game, which, yeah, it just really makes it stand out for me. And like I say, maybe my favorite combat system. Definitely in board games, but it does rival some miniature games I've played, which is insane. Considering this is mainly focused on being a board game, being a little bit quicker, a little more compact. Obviously a rule book for miniature games like that thick. This game, although it has 3 books, is they're very small books. There's not really many rules going on, and I think that is the next point I want to move into. Despite how tactical this game is, despite the millions and millions of things you get with it, the tokens, the cards, the different boards, the standees, miniatures, just little gems, dice, there's more dice than I can count on the table. Terrain pieces, you can get terrain miniature as well. It's just the absolute amount of stuff in this game, how much there is to do, how many different choices you have on a turn. Like I say, different combos and tactics you choose, characters having different impacts, the items. There is so much in this game, but it is so simple to get into. The first time we played, I read the rule books, then we jumped into a game the following night, and we had a few hiccups, the same as you would in any game. The movement on the boss is sometimes confusing, I will say, but just read the book, go over it again, and then it's pretty self-explanatory, honestly. Like, how you fight is easy, the story mode was easy, nothing really caught us out rule-wise, and I think that is a massive props to, like I say, such a big game. It's one of those things, I think in the moment, if you're going to put this to the table, get people to play it. It is a long experience for sure. It was something we played for the whole night, so I would say if you do get stuck on something, for the chapter 1, you are learning. Go with what feels right, and then look at the rule book. If you can look at it, you know where it is quickly, do that. If not, make a decision on the rule, read it, and then fix it for chapter 2. It's a long game. I don't think you want to get caught up on the rules too much. We were pretty good on checking the rules. A couple of seconds here. If someone's taking their turn, somebody else is checking the rules. And we got it down to a T. But the first time, we got through it quite comfortably. Like I said, we got through the story mode quite quickly. The boss itself. So there was a point where we were absolutely overrun by the minions because we were just trying to take down the boss. And yeah, we very much regretted that. I almost died instantly. One of the other characters almost died. Someone else was heavily damaged. The other guy was ticked a few off. We did manage to heal some back. I used one of my heals because I do heal myself. And then one of my cards can heal somebody else. So we managed to fight back a bit. We used absolutely everything, just clearing out the minions. It turns out we had just got unlucky. So the first few turns he was releasing the brood, I think it's called. Actually, it says here, release the brood. Yeah, that is exactly what it was called, where he summons 3 more minions. The first, I think it's 3 turns, he just did that. He didn't do his transfix or anything else. It was kind of grinding on us, but once we got through that, because we had gone through so many of those release cards, he tried a few transfixes. We managed to do some massive attacks. The Harbinger did a massive attack where he gets in power 5 if he's attacking from behind or from the flank or something like that anyway. And he absolutely decimated a few of the dice, cleared them off. Things were looking up for sure. I played a few things to increase my defense and was just sort of tanking some of the rat shots. It definitely turned around very quickly. We got a few big attacks out. His reactions were normally only catching one of us, which wasn't the end of the world. We'd sort of spread out quite nicely. And eventually we took down the rat. At that point, I think we were, so you get a special unique item if you kill it. I think you need 9 health left. And I think we're exactly what we needed. I was on 1, so I was almost dead at that point. Somebody else I think was on 1 or 2. And then we had like 5 and 3 on the other characters. So one guy was really healthy. So the bear was just sort of stood to the side. He did do some massive shots later in the fight and ended up cleaning up the broodmother. Yeah, there was a few turns where he was just sort of safely stood near some rock, dealing with one of the rats, and we were sort of getting swarmed the other side. So kind of thankful for it though. So we did get some items. One character took a couple of them. I think we divvied the others up and sold some, and I might have made away with some iron. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Who's to say? The other thing I really like is saving. So once you save the game, each character's got like a little baggie where he keeps all of his cards and tokens and stuff, so you know for next time exactly what you had. You can go back in. Some characters get permanent, so I think I've got the sheet here. You can sort of keep track of any permanents you have, so if you get anima every time or a redraw, there's certain ways to get it, normally via story mode and cards and events, stuff like that, which let you earn those extras. But I really don't know what else I can say about this game. I will touch on the one negative I mentioned earlier. It really is a small one, but it came up a few times. So the amount of stuff is obviously a massive bonus. But like I said, I've got this massive thing here. This is all full of cards. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there's 4 of these. And these are absolutely jam-packed full of decks. Finding what you need, like, I don't know if I've missed certain areas, but sometimes I'm looking for something and I just can't find where it tells me. It tells me where to find that thing. Like, I needed the injury deck. I was digging through, I think it was in number 3 for some reason. I feel like everything for chapter 1 should be in the chapter 1 box. I don't know if maybe I've mixed them up at some point. Like I say, there are just so many cards and it's very easy to get lost in. You do need to be very organized. They do a good job of the components, but the cards is where you really need to be on top of things. Else you're gonna, I think we were almost playing the wrong boss cards at one point. It's just something I would be aware of. It's not really a negative. Obviously you need all these cards for the experience. It's just something I'd say be aware of. Make sure you're organized. They give you tons of dividers, card separators. So they do give you everything you need to combat it in the box. That might be a negative on me rather than the game, but that is the only thing so far that I would say is a standout. Like I mentioned, starting out, the only other thing you might struggle with is the boss's movement. But like I say, just read over that paragraph. I think it's got 5 bullet points on what to do, when to do it. And yeah, you're gonna get that pretty quickly. Other than that, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. It's fairly simple of a game, but it's so tactical. So many small decisions making a massive impact. Gorgeous miniatures, gorgeous components, absolutely. The box is ram-full with goodness. There's so many goodies in there. You get companions, you get tokens, you've got everything you want in a board game you're gonna find in Oathsworn. And it has been an absolute masterpiece. I will be doing a top 10 board games at some point. I want to get a few more plays of this in before I rank it, but you can probably guess it's going to be pretty high. That's all I've got for this video though. If you've played Oathsworn, let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know any positive, negatives. Let me know if you've bought it or going to buy it after this. If you do, I'd say go for the miniature version if you can afford it, because it is slightly more expensive, but it is definitely worth it in my opinion. That's all I've got for this video though. If you've made it to this point, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.